The greatest monuments on Earth are not what they seem. Beneath their famous facades lie entire worlds never meant for human eyes. For centuries, explorers have accidentally broken through walls into secret chambers, rooms so perfectly concealed they were intended to stay lost forever. These are not mere empty spaces. They are time capsules holding clues to forgotten rituals, lost kingdoms, and treasures beyond imagination. By the end of this journey, you will know the stories behind 24 hidden chambers discovered inside iconic monuments. We will venture from a sealed void in the Great Pyramid to a clandestine cinema under the streets of Paris, unraveling why they were built and what they protect. Could the tomb of China's first emperor really contain rivers of Mercury? What forbidden knowledge might be sealed within the walls of the Vatican? Every discovery challenges our understanding of history itself. What do you think drives us to hide our greatest secrets in plain sight? This instinct to hide our most precious things is woven into the very foundations of civilization. For as long as people have built structures, they have also built secrets into them. It began with a fundamental human fear, the terror of losing what matters most. Ancient pharaohs lying in their grand pyramids knew their golden sarcophagi were irresistible targets, so they commissioned architects to design intricate labyrinths of dead ends, stone doors that blended seamlessly into walls, and burial chambers hidden deep within the bedrock, far from the official entrance. This was not just about stone and mortar, it was a psychological battle against the greed of future generations. Similarly, when faith was dangerous, believers did not abandon their practices, they simply moved them underground. Secret chapels were tucked away behind altars or beneath monastery floors, safeguarding sacred objects from destruction by persecuting forces. Centuries later, in medieval England, Catholic priests would be hidden in cleverly constructed spaces known as priest holes within the walls of great estates, their safety depending on the perfect illusion of a solid wall. These builders were not paranoid, they were practical masters of deception. They understood that the best way to protect something was to make the world believe it did not exist. This long history of intentional concealment transforms these chambers from simple rooms into deliberate, brilliant acts of preservation. They were always meant to be found by the wrong people, which makes their eventual discovery by the right ones all the more astonishing. Even a city of light has its pockets of perfect darkness. Deep beneath the Parisian boulevards, far from the reach of the sun, lies a realm built from the remains of the dead. The catacombs are a maze of tunnels lined with millions of human bones, a place most visitors are content to traverse quickly on the official tour. But in 2004, a police unit on a routine patrol made a find that was anything but routine. While investigating signs of illegal access, their flashlights swept across a wall that seemed different. Behind a carefully arranged pile of limestone blocks, they found a doorway. And beyond that doorway, the darkness gave way to a scene of bizarre modern comfort. It was a fully functional cinema. A large screen was fixed to one wall, facing rows of seats that had been carved directly from the soft rock. A projector and a collection of films sat nearby, alongside a generator for power. This was not a relic from the French Revolution or a forgotten wartime bunker. It was a contemporary creation, the work of urban explorers known as cataphiles, people so familiar with the underground network they could build a secret world within a world. This chamber proves that the human need for hidden spaces did not end with ancient pharaohs. It simply evolved. Here, the secret was not gold or sacred texts, but the experience of community and escape, a private theater for those who knew how to slip past the gates of the city above. The discovery blurs the line between ancient mystery and modern adventure, reminding us that the most profound secrets are sometimes not about what is hidden, but who is doing the hiding. Even the grandest decoy can hide a deeper truth. While the world marvels at the silent ranks of the terracotta army standing guard in Xi'an, China, these thousands of life-sized soldiers are merely the outermost sentinels. Their true purpose was to protect the ultimate prize, the final resting place of the emperor who unified China, Qin Shi Huang. His burial mound rises from the landscape, a quiet hillock that has resisted exploration for over 2,000 years. The reason for this caution lies in the words of an ancient historian, Sima Qian, who wrote vivid accounts of the tomb's construction shortly after the emperor's death. He described an underground palace filled with priceless treasures, its ceiling inlaid with pearls to mimic the night sky. But his most chilling warning concerned rivers and lakes of shimmering, toxic mercury, designed to flow eternally, representing the great waterways of the empire. For centuries, these accounts were treated as legend, a fanciful story. Then, modern science intervened. Geological surveys of the mound detected unusually high concentrations of mercury in the soil, a finding so significant it has halted any attempt at a full-scale excavation. The fear is not just poison, but also legendary booby traps described as crossbows set to fire automatically at any intruder. This is not merely an archaeological site, it is a sealed fortress. Advanced remote sensing techniques have since painted a startling picture of what lies beneath the earth. The data suggests a sprawling, palatial complex, a scale model of the emperor's kingdom, complete with halls, stables, and those legendary mercury rivers now stilled by time. The central chamber, where the emperor himself is believed to lie, remains the greatest mystery, a time capsule of unimaginable wealth and knowledge from the dawn of a unified China. It stands as a perfect example of a secret chamber that was never meant to be found. Its defenses so effective that even today, with all our technology, we can only gaze upon it from a distance, waiting for the day we can safely unlock its doors without triggering the very protections that have kept it intact for millennia. The silent, toxic guardians of Emperor Qin's tomb show how far rulers will go to protect their legacy. But what if the secret chamber was designed not to hide treasure, but to save knowledge itself? This brings us to the legend of the Libreria, the lost library of Ivan the Terrible. For centuries, this story was dismissed as pure fantasy, a tale of a Tsar's obsession with ancient texts. Ivan, a ruler infamous for his paranoia and brutality, was also a deeply learned man. He amassed a legendary collection of Greek, Byzantine, and early Russian manuscripts, a treasure trove of classical knowledge that rivaled the Library of Alexandria. The story goes that as political turmoil threatened his capital, he ordered the entire collection hidden away in a secret vault beneath the streets of Moscow, likely within the labyrinthine foundations of the Kremlin itself. And then the secret died with him. The library vanished from all records, becoming a ghost of history, a myth whispered among scholars. That is, until modern technology began to peer through the stone. Ground-penetrating radar and other scanning techniques have revealed something startling deep below the Kremlin. There are voids, passages, and chambers that do not appear on any known architectural plan. These are not natural formations. They are structured spaces hidden behind thick walls or accessed through long-forgotten tunnels. For those who hunt for the Libreria, these anomalies are the first solid evidence that the legend might be true. They believe these are the remains of a library designed not just for concealment, but for preservation, a desperate attempt to shield irreplaceable knowledge from the fires of war and religious purges. The search is a delicate dance with history, as archaeologists must navigate one of the world's most secure and historically sensitive sites. What could those texts contain? Perhaps lost histories, scientific treatises, or religious texts that challenge established narratives. The possibility remains that a single chamber, sealed by a paranoid Tsar, holds the power to rewrite entire chapters of human thought. The search for lost knowledge beneath the Kremlin is a patient technological pursuit, but sometimes a hidden world is not found through careful scanning, but by pure, simple accident. In 1963, a man in the Cappadocia region of Turkey was renovating his home. He knocked down a wall in his basement, expecting to find more rock. Instead, he found a void, a dark passageway leading down into the earth. Curiosity led him forward, and he soon realized this was no simple cellar. He had stumbled upon the entrance to an entire lost city, a place now known as Derinkuyu. This was not a single chamber or a forgotten tomb. It was a sprawling, multi-level metropolis carved deep into the region's soft volcanic rock. The scale is almost impossible to comprehend. This underground fortress could house up to 20,000 people. It contained everything needed for a community to survive for months, completely isolated from the world above. There were living quarters, stables for livestock, churches for worship, storage rooms for food, and even sophisticated wine presses. The entire complex was a masterpiece of defensive engineering. Long, narrow tunnels connected the levels, and these passages could be sealed off by massive, circular stone doors. Each door, weighing hundreds of kilograms, could be rolled into place from the inside, blocking any invader. Its purpose was starkly practical: survival. For centuries, the people of Cappadocia faced wave after wave of invasion. When armies approached on the surface, the entire population would simply vanish underground, sealing themselves in with their animals and supplies. They would wait in the quiet, lamp-lit halls until the danger had passed. The city remained a closely guarded secret for generations, a silent sanctuary beneath the feet of conquering forces. The man who accidentally rediscovered it in the 1960s did not just find a historical site. He uncovered a monument to human resilience, a testament to the sheer will to live. Derinkuyu proves that the most incredible hidden chambers are not always built for kings or treasures. Sometimes they are built for communities, for families, a secret world created not for glory, but for the simple, profound act of survival. Yet even a sanctuary built for thousands can feel less lonely than a single room designed for a solitary trial. On the sun-drenched island of Crete, the sprawling ruins of the palace of Knossos whisper tales of the Minotaur and its impossible labyrinth. When archaeologist Arthur Evans began his excavations in the early 20th century, he was not just uncovering stones, he was stepping directly into myth. Within the palace's complex honeycomb of corridors and courtyards, he found a small, crypt-like room that seemed to hold a darker purpose. He called it the Chamber of the Ordeal. Its walls were marked with repeated carvings of the double axe symbol, a sacred emblem known as the labyrinth, from which the very word labyrinth may derive. But the room's most unsettling feature was a hidden pit, a deliberate void concealed within the floor. Evans believed this was not a storage room or a simple cellar. He theorized it was a sacred space for ritualistic trials, a place where an individual would face some form of physical or psychological test, perhaps to prove their worthiness or to commune with divine powers. This small chamber provides a stunningly tangible link to the legendary labyrinth. It suggests that the terrifying story of the Minotaur was not pure fiction, but a mythological echo of a real architectural marvel, a palace so vast and confusing it felt like a maze. The chamber's hidden nature and its ominous pit were designed to create awe and fear, to separate the initiated from the unworthy. It stands as a powerful reminder that some of the greatest hidden chambers were not built to store objects, but to stage profound human experiences, sealing away not treasure, but transformation itself. A windowless room in a Spanish tower holds a secret written in the stars. High within the Alhambra Palace, the magnificent fortress of Granada's Islamic rulers, a small chamber was found tucked away in the Torre de la Vela. To the casual eye, it was just another empty space in a palace full of beautiful rooms, but its true purpose was hidden in its precise alignment. This was no storage closet, it was a secret observatory. At a time when astronomical knowledge was both a source of power and a potential threat, the court astronomers of the Sultan needed a place to work in absolute secrecy. They would retreat to this secluded room, using narrow slits in the masonry not for light, but as precise sight lines to track the movements of planets and stars. Their calculations were vital, dictating the timings for religious observances, guiding agricultural cycles, and even informing state decisions. This chamber transforms our understanding of the Alhambra from a mere palace of beautiful courtyards and fountains into a working center of advanced science. It reveals that the pursuit of knowledge itself was once a clandestine activity, a treasure so valuable it required its own hidden sanctuary. The astronomers who worked here understood that their discoveries could be as dangerous as they were enlightening, and so they built a fortress for knowledge within a fortress of stone. Even the most celebrated masterpiece can have a shadow. Every year, millions of visitors crane their necks to admire Michelangelo's breathtaking frescoes on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. The sheer grandeur of the art is overwhelming. But what if the chapel's greatest secret is not painted in plain sight, but sealed away behind the very walls that hold these masterpieces? Tucked discreetly behind the monumental fresco of the Last Judgment is a small, unassuming door. It leads to a hidden sacristy, a room used by clergy for centuries to robe themselves and prepare for the sacred ceremonies taking place just feet away. This room was a practical necessity, a private space for the papal court, and it was never meant to be seen by the public, yet this known chamber hints at deeper mysteries. The Sistine Chapel was not built on an empty plot of land. It was constructed over older structures, and there are persistent, compelling rumors of even older chambers that were simply sealed off when the current chapel was completed. Could these forgotten voids hold artifacts from the chapel's previous incarnations? Perhaps they contain early Christian relics or papal records deemed too sensitive for their time, documents that might shed new light on the complex history of the Church. These spaces are a powerful reminder that our most famous landmarks are not singular creations. They are architectural palimpsests with layers of history written one on top of the other, the oldest stories often hidden and preserved within the walls of the new. The public sees the glorious finale, but the true, messy, and fascinating history of the place remains locked away, a silent testament to all that came before the masterpiece we know today. The layers of history beneath the Sistine Chapel are a testament to how new monuments often entomb the old. But what happens when the old is so sacred it must be preserved at all costs, even as a new, grander structure rises above it? The answer lies directly to the west beneath the soaring dome of St. Peter's Basilica. The basilica we see today is a monumental achievement of the Renaissance, but it was not the first church on this hallowed ground. For over 1,000 years, a simpler, older basilica stood in its place. When the decision was made to rebuild it into the grand church we know, architects faced a profound dilemma. How could they construct a new foundation without destroying the most sacred site of all, the very tomb of St. Peter? Their solution was an act of architectural reverence and secrecy. As workers excavated beneath the main altar to lay the new foundation, they uncovered a Roman-era necropolis, a city of the dead, and within that necropolis they found a small, unadorned chamber. This humble space was known from ancient writings as the Trophy of Gaius, a 2nd century shrine believed to mark the final resting place of the Apostle Peter. Instead of demolishing it, the builders did something extraordinary. They carefully preserved the chamber, sealing it within a protective marble and porphyry casing, and then built the entire new basilica directly over it. The high altar, the focal point of the entire Catholic world, was positioned precisely above this hidden sanctum. This makes the tomb not a forgotten relic, but a deliberately concealed heart, beating silently beneath tons of marble and Michelangelo's dome. Its discovery in the 20th century during archaeological excavations confirmed a tradition held for centuries, proving that the most powerful hidden chambers are not always meant to stay lost. Sometimes they are meant to be remembered, their presence a silent, foundational secret that gives an entire monument its deepest meaning. Even the tomb of St. Peter, concealed with reverence, was built to be remembered by a chosen few. But some chambers were designed with the opposite intent, to be so perfectly erased from the architectural record that their very existence would be denied. This brings us to the ultimate ancient puzzle, the Great Pyramid of Giza. For centuries we believed we had mapped its every passage, the ascending corridor, the Queen's chamber, the Grand Gallery leading to the King's chamber. It seemed the final word on the pyramid's internal structure had been written. Then, in 2017, a team of scientists applied a revolutionary technology, muon radiography. Think of it as a cosmic X-ray. Muons are subatomic particles that constantly rain down from the atmosphere, passing through solid matter. By placing detectors inside the pyramid, the Scan Pyramids project could measure how many muons passed through the stone, revealing denser and less dense areas. The data revealed something astonishing. High above the Grand Gallery, a colossal empty space was detected. They called it the Big Void. This is not a small crack or a narrow fissure. It is a defined chamber, estimated to be around 30 meters long, with a cross-section similar to the Grand Gallery itself, and it has no known entrance. No corridor leads to it, no shaft descends from it. The builders went to incredible lengths to seal it off completely, burying it within millions of tons of limestone. So what is it? The leading theory suggests it could be a structural chamber, designed to relieve the immense weight of the pyramid's core from bearing down directly onto the Grand Gallery below, preventing its collapse. But its scale and specific location have fueled more tantalizing ideas. Could it be a second, hidden burial chamber, perhaps intended for a different purpose than the known King's chamber? Or does it hold construction materials or even artifacts left behind by the builders, a time capsule of the pyramid's own creation? The void's true purpose remains one of archaeology's greatest active mysteries. Its discovery is a humbling lesson. It proves that the most studied monument on our planet, a structure we have walked through and measured for generations, still holds a secret room of monumental proportions, a silent, empty space that challenges every assumption we have about why the pyramid was built and what it was meant to protect. The Great Pyramid's hidden void was a deliberate architectural secret, but not all concealed spaces were planned with such grand intent. Sometimes, the most telling chambers are those forgotten by history, sealed by accident rather than design. Centuries after the pyramids, a different kind of architectural wonder was taking shape in Italy, one that would also defy expectations by simply refusing to fall down. During meticulous restoration work on the Leaning Tower of Pisa, engineers probing the iconic tilt made a human-scale discovery. In the space between the tower's inner and outer walls, they broke through into a small, sealed room. It was not a treasure vault or a sacred crypt. It was a time capsule left by the very people who built it. Inside, untouched for over 600 years, were the humble tools of the medieval craftsmen, pottery shards from their meals, and perhaps most remarkably, graffiti scratched into the stone by the workers themselves. This was not a chamber of kings, but a room of laborers. It was likely an access space used during construction, a pocket of air that was simply bricked up and forgotten when the work moved to a higher level. The room's contents offer a priceless, intimate glimpse into the reality of creating a monument that would become world famous. We see the fingerprints of the artisans, not just the hand of the architect. It reminds us that these iconic structures were not magically erected. They were built by real people with real tools who took breaks, ate lunch, and sometimes left their mark on the stone, never imagining that centuries later, their forgotten break room would become one of the tower's most profound secrets. A monument's secret history is not always carved by human hands. Sometimes nature provides the blueprint, and people simply add their own layers of concealment. High within the rock of Gibraltar, a massive limestone monolith that guards the entrance to the Mediterranean, a different kind of wartime story unfolded. During World War II, the British military embarked on a massive engineering project, tunneling deep into the rock to create a fortress capable of withstanding any siege. They carved out miles of passages, ammunition stores, and hospitals, turning the entire formation into a bristling defensive weapon. But as they blasted and drilled, they occasionally broke through into spaces they had not created. One of these was a natural cavern hidden away from the world for thousands of years. It was not an empty void. Scattered across its floor were ancient pottery shards and stone tools, evidence that this secluded space had been a sanctuary long before the age of modern warfare. Archaeologists believe this grotto served as a hermitage, a hidden refuge used by an astonishing succession of inhabitants. The very first may have been Neanderthals seeking shelter in the deep past. Millennia later, it could have hidden Moorish soldiers during their occupation of the Iberian Peninsula. Then, perhaps, it was a secret chapel for devout Christians or a smuggler's den. This single, natural chamber tells a story not of a single hidden purpose, but of a constant human need for a place of retreat. It demonstrates how a geographical monument, famous for its strategic importance, can also be a silent keeper of intimate histories. The grotto's value lies not in gold or grand artifacts, but in its enduring role as a sanctuary. It is a space that offered safety to the solitary hermit, the fleeing soldier, and the outlaw, proving that the most powerful hidden chambers are those that serve the most basic human instinct, the will to simply disappear and survive. To erase a man's memory, you must first bury his palace. The Domus Aurea, or Golden House, was Emperor Nero's sprawling monument to his own ego, a complex so vast it occupied a significant portion of central Rome. After his suicide and the condemnation of his memory, his furious successors tried to wipe him from history. They stripped the palace of its marble and gold, filled its rooms with earth, and built the baths of Trajan and the Colosseum directly on top of it. They succeeded so well that for over 1,000 years, the Golden House was nothing but a legend. Then, during the Renaissance, a young man fell through a crack in the earth. Artists exploring the Oppian Hill found themselves descending into dark, subterranean grottos. They lowered ropes and candles into the abyss, and their flickering light revealed not a cave, but a ceiling covered in exquisite ancient frescoes. These artists, including masters like Raphael, were spellbound. They had discovered the source of a style they had seen fragments of, a style they called grotesque, from the word for cave, which would go on to influence Renaissance art profoundly. But they were only scratching the surface of a much larger secret. They saw the rooms that had been filled with dirt, the ones that formed the structural foundation for the buildings above. In recent years, advanced laser scanning has pierced through the remaining earth and stone to reveal something even more incredible: entire wings of the palace that were not just filled in but perfectly sealed. These chambers were never pillaged. Their walls are still adorned with intricate murals of mythical beasts and delicate floral patterns, their vibrant colors preserved by 2 millennia of perfect darkness. They are pristine time capsules of Nero's extravagant and controversial taste, hidden not by accident, but by a deliberate act of historical censorship. The very act of trying to erase Nero created the perfect conditions for preserving his world, a final, ironic twist for an emperor who built a golden house only to have it become a hidden tomb for his legacy. A monument can hold 2 souls in a single body. Centuries after the Domus Aurea was buried, another act of architectural transformation created a different kind of hidden chamber, one born not from erasure but from incorporation. In the heart of Andalusia, Spain, stands the Cathedral of Cordoba, a soaring Catholic church with a Gothic choir and a Renaissance nave. But to walk through its famous forest of red and white striped arches is to sense another presence entirely. This was once the Great Mosque of Cordoba, one of the most magnificent centers of Islamic worship in the medieval world. After the city was reclaimed by Christian forces in the 13th century, the mosque was consecrated as a cathedral. Over the following centuries, a grand cathedral was literally built inside the mosque's vast prayer hall, a new heart beating within an old shell. During one of the many renovations, workers made a poignant discovery. Tucked away behind a thick, later wall, they found a small, sealed-off room. It was not a room in the conventional sense, but a Mihrab, the sacred prayer niche that indicates the Qibla, the direction of Mecca. This was not the grand, mosaic-adorned Mihrab that visitors see today. This was the original, from a much older, smaller mosque that had stood on the site before the grand expansion. When the newer, larger mosque was constructed, this older Mihrab was not destroyed. It was treated with a quiet reverence, carefully walled up and preserved like a sacred fossil within the growing walls. Its survival is a silent, powerful act of historical continuity. While the building's function and dominant iconography changed dramatically, this hidden chamber held fast to its original purpose, forever pointing toward Mecca. It is a physical memory, a deliberate secret kept by the stones themselves. This hidden Mihrab does not represent conflict, but a profound layering of faith. It reminds us that the most enduring monuments are not static. They are living records of change, and their most sacred spaces are sometimes the ones we are not meant to see, the silent chambers that remember what the world above has chosen to transform. A facade can be a magnificent lie. The Monastery of Petra is one of the most breathtaking sights on Earth, its colossal doorway carved directly from the rose-red cliff face, standing nearly 50 meters high. For generations, visitors have made the long, arduous climb to stand in its shadow, assuming the single, cavernous room inside was the entirety of the structure. But what if this monumental carving was never the main event? What if it was a decoy, an architectural sleight of hand designed to draw the eye away from a far greater secret? Recent surveys using ground-penetrating radar have sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. The data reveals that the solid-looking mountain behind the famous facade is anything but solid. It is honeycombed with anomalies, with what appear to be tunnels and chambers lurking in the deep, silent darkness behind the carved stone. This was the genius of the Nabateans, the desert traders who built Petra. They understood that the best way to protect a treasure is not to lock it in a room, but to convince everyone the room does not exist. As the power of the Roman Empire grew, threatening their kingdom and its immense wealth from the incense trade, the Nabateans would have needed a perfect hiding place. The sheer, undeniable spectacle of the monastery's facade would have been the perfect distraction, a public declaration of piety and power. Any Roman conqueror, upon seeing it, would naturally assume they had found the heart of the kingdom. They would have looted the main chamber and moved on, completely unaware that the real treasury, the accumulated riches of a merchant empire, remained safe just a few meters away, buried within the living rock. The mountain itself was the vault, and the beautiful, empty room was merely its locked door. Even the most solid institutions are built upon secrets. The Bank of England, that imposing fortress of finance known as the Old Lady of Threadneedle Street, presents an unshakable face of granite and stability to the world. But beneath its formidable public floors lie depths that few ever see. Beyond the modern vaults that hold the nation's gold reserves, there are older, more enigmatic spaces sealed away within the building's very bones. These are chambers from the bank's earliest days in the 18th century, rooms that vanished from official blueprints long ago, becoming the stuff of internal legend. They are rumored to contain not just forgotten bullion, but the physical archives of financial catastrophe. One persistent story points to the South Sea bubble crisis of 1720, a period of manic speculation and devastating collapse that nearly ruined the British economy. The tale suggests that documents detailing the bank's own precarious involvement, records of disastrous loans and compromised promises, were deemed too explosive to keep in any ordinary archive. Instead, they were bricked up within a subterranean chamber, a secret buried to protect the institution's reputation and ensure its survival. This transforms the bank from a simple treasury into a keeper of its own hidden history. The sealed vaults are a stark reminder that power does not just reside in wealth, but in the control of information. By physically concealing the evidence of past failures within its walls, the bank created a permanent monument to a simple, enduring truth: that the foundation of public trust is sometimes built upon a carefully constructed silence. A fortress of finance conceals its past, but a mansion in California was built to hide from the future itself. The Winchester Mystery House is a sprawling, chaotic monument to grief and superstition. Its owner, Sarah Winchester, heiress to the rifle fortune, became convinced that she was haunted by the ghosts of those killed by the Winchester rifle. A psychic reportedly told her that to appease these spirits and avoid death, she must continuously build a house, and that the construction must never, ever stop. For 38 years, from 1886 until her death in 1922, she followed this command. The result is an architectural fever dream, a Queen Anne-style Victorian mansion that spirals into sheer insanity. There are staircases that lead directly into ceilings, doors that open onto two-story drops, and windows built into floors. It is a house designed to confuse, a maze meant to disorient the vengeful spirits she believed were pursuing her. But among all these bizarre features, one hidden chamber stands out for its solemn and mysterious purpose. Deep within the mansion, concealed beneath a rug and a trapdoor, lies a hidden basement crypt. It is a cold, stone-walled room, stark and tomb-like, with none of the ornate detailing found in the rest of the house. Its existence is profoundly unsettling. Why would a woman building a house to escape death need a secret burial chamber? Some speculate it was intended as a final refuge, a place where she could hide from the ghosts in her most terrified moments. Others believe it was meant as a peaceful resting place for the spirits themselves, a dedicated room to appease them. The crypt was never used, but its very construction speaks volumes. It represents the ultimate expression of Sarah Winchester's fear, a private sanctuary for her deepest anxieties, built right into the foundation of her home. This is not a chamber for treasure or forbidden knowledge, but for a troubled soul, a physical manifestation of a psychological need for a hiding place that was both literal and spiritual. The house itself became her secret, a labyrinthine puzzle whose true purpose was known only to her. Even the strongest walls can have a secret heartbeat. The Theodosian walls of Constantinople were not just a barrier, they were a legend in stone, a defensive system so advanced they protected the capital of the Byzantine Empire for over 1,000 years. To any approaching army, they presented an impenetrable face of alternating bands of brick and limestone, towering over a deep moat, but their true genius lay hidden within. During modern restoration work, masons repairing centuries of damage made a peculiar find. As they cleared away rubble and repointed mortar, they uncovered openings that should not have been there, small, perfectly square voids sealed behind what appeared to be solid sections of the inner wall. These were not cracks or structural flaws. They were deliberate chambers, occluded rooms built right into the wall's massive thickness. They were too cramped to be living quarters and too inaccessible for regular storage. So what was their purpose? Military historians believe these chambers were a final, desperate gambit integrated into the city's very bones. In times of normal garrison duty, they remained sealed and invisible. But if the outer defenses were breached and invaders reached the base of the main wall, defenders could break through the thin inner facade into these hidden pockets. From here, they could rain down arrows, stones, or even boiling pitch onto attackers who believed they were safe in the wall's shadow. Alternatively, the chambers could have held emergency caches of weapons, food, or water, allowing a small group of defenders to hold out long after the rest of the city had fallen. This was the ultimate military secret, a last line of defense that was also a brutal surprise. An enemy could spend months building siege engines to breach the outer works, only to find that the wall itself was fighting back, sprouting new threats from its seemingly solid skin. These occluded chambers transformed the Theodosian walls from a passive shield into an active, cunning participant in the city's defense, a monument that kept its greatest tricks hidden until the moment they were most needed. The Theodosian walls were a fortress of military cunning, but a fortress of faith could hide secrets just as cleverly. On the coast of Normandy, the Abbey of Mont Saint-Michel rises from the sea, a seemingly impossible stack of stone that becomes an island with each high tide. For centuries, it was one of the greatest centers of learning in all of Europe, its library a treasure chest of illuminated manuscripts. But even within this sanctuary of knowledge, there were texts considered too precious or too dangerous to be left in the open. During a restoration of the ancient library, a conservator noticed something odd about a section of wall. The stonework was slightly different, the mortar a fraction too new. It was a false wall, and behind it lay a discovery that revealed the abbey's deepest anxieties. The hidden space was a tiny scriptorium, just large enough for a single monk and his writing desk. Traces of ancient ink still stained the stone ledge where he would have worked by the faint light of a single candle. This was not a place for copying common psalters or gospels. This secret room was for texts that required an extra layer of protection. Perhaps it housed controversial theological works that challenged the orthodoxy of the day, or ancient philosophical texts from the classical world that were viewed with suspicion by the church. It might even have been used to create duplicate copies of the abbey's most valuable manuscripts, a secret backup plan in case of fire or Viking raid. The room's existence speaks to a profound truth about the medieval world. Knowledge was not just power, it was a vulnerability. A single book could be as threatening as an army if it fell into the wrong hands, or as devastating a loss as a plundered treasury if it were destroyed. By building this secret chamber, the monks were not acting out of paranoia, but out of a sacred duty. They were the guardians of a fragile flame, and they built a hidden room to shield it from the wind. Destruction can sometimes be the greatest preserver. The Palace of Westminster, better known as the Houses of Parliament, is a symbol of Victorian grandeur, its iconic clock tower and intricate stonework defining the London skyline. But when German bombs fell during the Blitz of World War II, they tore open sections of this national treasure, revealing that the Victorian shell was built around a far older skeleton. In the complex process of post-war repair, workers investigating structural damage behind a thick interior wall made a remarkable find. They broke through into a room that time had forgotten, a small, dark chamber that had been sealed for centuries. This was not a Victorian space. It was a surviving fragment of the original medieval Palace of Westminster, a royal residence that had been largely destroyed by a fire in the 16th century. The room was a stunning time capsule, untouched by the later Gothic revival that encased it. Its walls were not bare stone. On one, conservators found a magnificent and incredibly rare 13th century wall painting. This was not a simple sketch, but a formal work of art, a depiction of the figure of Fortune turning her wheel, a powerful medieval symbol of the rise and fall of kings. The painting dates to the reign of King Henry III, a monarch who transformed Westminster into the center of English government. This forgotten room was likely an administrative office, a place where royal clerks conducted the mundane business of running a kingdom. Its survival is a complete accident, a fortunate byproduct of the later construction that simply built around it and sealed it off. This hidden chamber offers something far more valuable than treasure. It offers a direct, tangible connection to the medieval origins of British democracy. We are not looking at a reconstruction or an artist's impression. We are looking at the actual walls where the foundations of modern governance were laid, a secret room that quietly witnessed the birth of Parliament itself. Even a successful design can hold onto its ultimate secret. The Red Pyramid at Dosha stands as a quiet landmark in the history of architecture, the first pyramid to achieve the perfect, smooth-sided form we all recognize. It was a triumphant success for Pharaoh Sneferu after the dramatic failure of the nearby Bent Pyramid. For a long time, archaeologists believed they had fully mapped its interior, a series of ascending chambers leading to a single, empty burial room. The pyramid seemed to have given up all its secrets. Then, modern technology cast a new light on the ancient stones. Scientists conducting thermal scans of the pyramid's facade noticed something perplexing. As the sun heated the limestone blocks during the day and they cooled at night, the infrared cameras detected subtle temperature differences in specific patterns. These thermal anomalies suggested that behind the seemingly solid walls there were voids, spaces where the stone behaved differently because it was bordering empty air. The evidence points to the possible existence of rooms that have no known entrance, chambers completely sealed off from the internal passageways we know. This is a staggering possibility. If these hidden spaces are real, what could they contain? The known burial chamber of the Red Pyramid was found empty, stripped clean by grave robbers in antiquity. But the thermal hints suggest that the pyramid's most important treasure, the actual burial goods of Pharaoh Sneferu, might never have been in that main chamber at all. They could be resting intact in a secret annex, a final, brilliant deception by the pyramid's architects. Discovering these chambers would rewrite the early history of the pyramids. It would show that the practice of building decoy chambers and hidden voids did not begin with the Great Pyramid at Giza, but was perfected here in the very first successful attempt. The Red Pyramid, long seen as a straightforward precursor, may in fact be the masterclass in subterfuge, its greatest prize still waiting in the dark, protected by the silent genius of its design. Even the most sacred ground is built upon layers of the profane. The Vatican, the spiritual center for over 1 billion people, is a city-state whose public face is one of ordered faith and open devotion. But beneath the Basilica and its sprawling museums, the earth tells a different, much older story. Whispers have circulated for centuries of a second, deeper network of catacombs, far more ancient than the known necropolis under St. Peter's. These are not the tidy, organized burial tunnels shown to pilgrims. These rumored chambers are said to be a chaotic jumble of history, containing the sealed tombs of Roman pagans who owned the land long before it was ever holy to Christians. They might also hold the very first clandestine meeting places of the early church, when believers worshipped in secret, fearing persecution from the empire above. And perhaps most tantalizing of all are the legends of lost archives, libraries containing scrolls and codices from the first centuries after Christ, documents that could shed light on the Church's most formative and controversial decisions. Why would such a place be sealed? The reasons are as complex as history itself. Some chambers may have been closed off for simple structural safety as new buildings rose above. Others might have been entombed to sanctify the ground, burying the pagan past literally beneath the foundations of the new faith. But the most sensitive chambers could hold records too challenging, too theologically dangerous to ever see the light of day. What if they contain alternate gospels, accounts of the early church that differ from the approved narratives, or financial records of its tumultuous rise to power? The Vatican's extreme restriction on archaeological excavation in these areas only fuels the speculation. It transforms these hypothetical chambers from mere historical sites into the ultimate symbol of institutional secrecy. What rests in the darkness below is not just bones and parchment, but the potential to rewrite the origin story of Western faith itself. A secret so profound it has been physically buried beneath the weight of the world's smallest and most powerful country. Yet even the most infamous prison holds memories of royal comfort. Within the Tower of London's Cold Stone, a place synonymous with execution and despair, a recent renovation uncovered a secret of a very different nature. High in the White Tower, the fortress's ancient heart, workers repairing a wall found their tools breaking through into a void. It was not a dungeon, but a room that had been perfectly sealed since the 17th century. Inside, the air was still and thick with centuries of dust, preserving a scene frozen in time. This was a medieval royal apartment, a space of surprising domesticity hidden within the grim fortress. A large, ornate fireplace suggested warmth and light, a stark contrast to the cold cells below. But the most telling feature was a rare, intact garderobe, a medieval toilet built into the thick wall. This was not a crude hole, but a sophisticated private latrine, a luxury that spoke directly to the status of its user. The room's existence rewrites the building's story. The tower was not just a prison, it was also a royal residence, a place where kings and queens could live in guarded comfort. This chamber was likely sealed off during modernizing renovations, its old-fashioned layout deemed unnecessary and simply bricked up, then forgotten. Its accidental preservation gives us an intimate glimpse into the private, human side of power. We see not the crown, but the person who wore it, in a moment of quiet solitude high above the turmoil of the kingdom. This hidden room reminds us that monuments are rarely one-dimensional. They contain layers of contradictory lives, where luxury and terror can exist just a few feet apart, separated only by a wall of forgotten bricks. The search for a king's tomb can lead to a different kind of treasure altogether. Beneath the ancient stones of Jerusalem's Temple Mount, a site sacred to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, lies a mystery that has captivated believers and historians for millennia. This is the enduring enigma of the Temple of Solomon, a structure described in scripture with almost divine grandeur. While its precise physical remains are lost to history, swallowed by successive destructions and reconstructions, modern technology has begun to probe the secrets deep underground. Archaeological surveys using ground-penetrating radar have detected a network of anomalies, cavities, and channels carved into the bedrock that do not correspond to any known cistern or later construction. These are not random voids. Some scholars, cross-referencing these scans with ancient Hebrew texts, propose a tantalizing theory. They suggest these hidden spaces could be the lost treasury chambers of the First Temple, vaults deliberately engineered to protect the temple's most sacred objects from plunder. Imagine not just gold and silver, but the legendary Ark of the Covenant itself, said to contain the original stone tablets of the Ten Commandments. These chambers would have been the ultimate sanctum, a secret heart within the Holy of Holies. But the search for them is fraught with immense sensitivity, as any physical excavation is impossible on such a contested site. This transforms the quest from a simple dig into a technological and theological detective story. The potential discovery of these chambers is not merely an archaeological prize. It is a spiritual pursuit that touches the very core of three world religions, a search for a hidden room that holds not just artifacts, but the weight of faith itself. What would it mean to finally locate the foundation stones of a story that has shaped half the world? The answer remains sealed in stone, waiting for a day when technology and tradition might together unlock a door that has been closed for thousands of years. And so we arrive at the final chamber, a secret that may not exist at all, yet has captivated explorers for centuries. The Great Sphinx of Giza, with its lion's body and pharaoh's head, seems to hold a knowing smile, as if guarding the oldest secret on the plateau. While the pyramids declare their grandeur, the Sphinx whispers it, its weathered form hinting at depths we cannot see. Legends speak of a hidden library, a hall of records, buried deep within the bedrock beneath the colossal paws. This is not a chamber for gold or a king's body, but for something far more precious, the accumulated wisdom of a civilization that predates dynastic Egypt, perhaps even the survivors of the mythical Atlantis. The theory suggests that this hall contains crystal tablets or ancient papyri holding knowledge of astronomy, agriculture, and spiritual truths, a legacy left for a future humanity ready to receive it. Geological surveys have indeed detected anomalies, cavities, and tunnels beneath the Sphinx that do not appear natural. While mainstream archaeology remains skeptical, attributing these to natural fissures or later excavations, the possibility endures. This final chamber represents the ultimate human quest, the desire to believe that the answers to our deepest questions about existence and our origins are not lost, but merely hidden, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. It is the idea that the greatest monument of all might be a key, and that the final secret is not a thing, but a promise, a testament to our unshakable belief that there is always one more door to open, one more mystery waiting in the shadows just beyond the reach of our light. The Sphinx's silent gaze hints at the ultimate motivation for all these hidden spaces. It is not merely about bricks and mortar, but about the profound human need to keep a part of our world safe from view. The reasons for building these chambers are as varied as the structures themselves, yet they all speak to a shared psychological trait, the instinct to conceal. A pharaoh entombing his treasures feared the greed of future generations. A community carving a city underground feared the violence of invaders. A monk sealing away a controversial manuscript feared the destruction of his faith. In every case, the hidden chamber is a physical answer to a deep-seated anxiety, but this is more than just fear. It is a sophisticated understanding of power. Those who commissioned our greatest monuments realized that true significance is not always found in the grand facade or the public square. Often, the most potent meaning resides in what is deliberately withheld, the secret heart that gives the entire structure its purpose. This architectural secrecy becomes a language, a silent narrative etched into stone. It tells stories of paranoia and piety, of survival and sovereignty. A sealed door is a statement. It says that something within is so valuable, so sacred, or so dangerous that it must exist outside the flow of ordinary life, protected from change, from conquest, from time itself. By choosing to hide, these builders were not just protecting objects or people. They were safeguarding identities, beliefs, and legacies, ensuring that the most essential parts of their culture could endure long after their public monuments had been interpreted, conquered, or forgotten. The chamber is the message, and its silence speaks volumes about the fragile, fierce will to endure. Our journey through these 24 hidden chambers uncovers a history written in secret spaces, a narrative of fear, faith, and foresight carved into the very foundations of our world. From the toxic tomb of China's first emperor to the clandestine cinema beneath Paris, a single, powerful pattern emerges. Humanity has always built with a dual purpose, creating public monuments for the world to see, and private chambers for truths deemed too precious or too dangerous to share. This is not a scattered collection of curiosities, but a unified testament to an enduring human instinct, the drive to conceal. These builders were masters of misdirection, understanding that a secret kept in darkness stands a far greater chance of surviving the ravages of time, conquest, and greed than one left in the open. Each discovery peels back a layer of the official story, reminding us that the history we think we know is often just the surface. The real, messy, and profoundly human story continues to wait in the shadows, challenging us to question the solidity of every wall and the finality of every map. For every chamber we have found, from the Great Pyramid's void to the Tower of London's lost apartment, how many more remain sealed, their stories silently echoing in the dark? The search is far from over, and the next great discovery might be waiting just behind a forgotten stone, ready to rewrite our past once again. These stories of sealed doors and forgotten rooms prove that the greatest discoveries are rarely endpoints. They are invitations. The world is still filled with monuments whose deepest secrets remain locked in stone, waiting for the right moment or the right technology to reveal themselves. If these hidden histories have sparked your curiosity, imagine what other chapters are waiting to be uncovered just beneath the surface of our familiar world. To join us on our next deep dive into the world's greatest mysteries, be sure to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. We want to hear from you, our fellow explorers. Which of these hidden chambers intrigues you the most? Do you know of any local legends about secret rooms or forgotten passages in your own part of the world? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Your insights might just be the clue that leads to our next investigation. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and always remember that history, no matter how well documented, is always hiding more than it reveals.